Hey, it's Jang here from UltimateRC.com with a look at the Himoto Mega-E XB-10. I picked this up from HimotoRacingUSA.com and it's also available from CKHobby.com. This is an entry-level 1/10 scale 4-wheel drive electric buggy. This is $140 ready to run with a battery pack. The battery pack is a 2000 milliamp hour nickel metal hydride, but it is a battery pack. And it does come with a wall charger to go with it. Now, I gotta admit, my first thought upon looking at this buggy is what the heck were they thinking with the body? It's an off-road buggy with a futuristic closed cockpit Formula One Indy car body. Don't get it. But moving beyond the body, let's take a look at what's actually under there. It's equipped with plastic shocks all the way around, with aluminum caps top and bottom. They are oil-filled, but the springs that come with them are either too long or too hard, or a little bit of both. Camber links and steering tie rods are plastic and non-adjustable, but if you were to upgrade them, they do give you a lot of different mounting points for everything, so you can adjust your geometry. It's got metal dog bones and aluminum center shaft. The servo has a nice heatsink case on it, but it doesn't have really great stats. It has acceptable speed, not such great torque. It has a brushed only ESC, which says it's rated at 100 amps, but we don't know under what conditions, probably in a lab. I would ignore that. And here is your sealed can brushed motor. I have no idea what this is equivalent to in power, but I'll soon find out. Ooh, and I almost forgot, 2.4 gigahertz radio system. This here is running 100% box stock, including using that weak 2000 milliamp hour nickel metal hydride battery pack that is included. On my radar, it tops out at 20 to 21 miles per hour with that battery. It's a little better than the last entry-level buggy that I tested, and honestly, it's moving along pretty decently for such a cheap little car. Handling is better than I expected too. I can definitely feel that the springs are too stiff, especially in the rear. It tends to bounce around back there, but all in all, it remains controllable and it lands the jumps okay. I think the shock setup is pretty decent, just needs those springs to be replaced. The thing has a ton of steering. It really likes to turn when you tell it to go. It feels like it has oversteer, but it doesn't really go fast enough or have enough get up and go to really spin out until you get onto a looser surface. Thankfully, because it is 4-wheel drive, pretty much you can just keep on the throttle and point in the direction you want the nose to point and wait for the tires to get enough grip and it'll start moving in that direction. The tires do have fair traction, not great, but it is plenty enough for this level of power. What I don't get about the tires is that as of the time that I'm narrating this video, I've put 8 packs through this car and running on hard surfaces and running out here trying to thrash it around, and I still have about 80% of my tread left, and that's weird because they have small pins on them. They use wheels with 12mm hexes, but there's a lot of positive or narrowing offset on them, so most aftermarket wheels will make the buggy wider. One bad thing about all that offset on the wheels is that sometimes gravel will get stuck in there and you gotta shake it out. You know what seeing a car limping around makes me think of? Yes. Woo! Yeah! Broke it! Ha ha! What? Yup! We have success. taking a little closer look at the damage. Looks like I've got one bent inner suspension pin and one broken rear suspension pin mount. All I had to do was drive backwards at full speed, directly at an angle into a wall, like that. There's actually an aluminum pin brace towards the front, but the one towards the rear is plastic. Because they weren't expecting me to drive full speed backwards into a wall. They only expected me to drive forwards full speed into a wall. 2 business days later, after an order to HimotoRacingUSA.com, I was back out on the track. This time I stepped it up just a little bit by installing a 2-cell LiPo pack. Now the ESC does not have a LiPo cutoff built in, so if you are going to run a LiPo battery, make sure you know exactly how to do it, or just install an external LiPo cutoff, or at least a low voltage alarm. This bumped up my top speed from 20 to 21 miles per hour to 24 to 25 miles per hour on flat ground. A 25% increase in total top speed. It's not that big of a number, but it actually felt like more than that, and I think it's because I have a lot more punch now with this LiPo battery. It became a lot easier to clear things around the track, and I actually started to need to be a little bit more careful on the throttle from a standing start or from going really slow. If I powered into it, it would actually overpower the rear tires and slide out more. Speaking of sliding out, I love driving like this. It's the rooster tails of dust backlit by the late afternoon sun. There's just something beautiful about it. Okay, back to work. Next test session. This was with a very minor and quick suspension retune, again running the 2-cell LiPo pack. And all I did here was take 4 associated silver truck front springs used for the T3, T4, and GT. Installed those over the stock shocks and just added some RPM preload spacers to get my ride height where I wanted it, and I left the stock oil and stock pistons in the shocks. It felt better, but I know it can feel better still. Next, I should probably stand the shocks up a little bit more, moving them to their outer holes on the shock towers, both front and rear, so I have a little bit more direct suspension action, a little more direct dampening. But that's for another day. This is the first Himoto racing product that I've ever tested, and I feel like you get your money's worth with it. It's 4-wheel drive with a 2.4 GHz radio system, comes with a battery, and it costs $140. It could use a better battery, better tires, and better springs, but it doesn't need any of those things to have a lot of fun with it. This is not going to compete against an associated B4 4.1, but it'll run circles around its closest competition like a Tamiya 4-wheel drive entry-level buggy in both performance and value. This I know from experience. It's the Himoto Racing Mega-E XB-10 ready to run. You can find it at HimotoRacingUSA.com and CKHobby.com. Thanks for watching, and as always, I hope to see you on the friendly forums at UltimateRC.com.